Mhm. See, there's a judgment at the time of arrest. Now, supposedly, right, you're innocent until proven guilty, but the charging language of the actual arrest document, yeah, is the judgment. It defines how much fine or jail time or prison you can get. Yes. And they've already pre-established that the law, according to the judgment, when you execute an arrest, is the execution of the definition of the law that does define fines, yes, jail or prison. Now, when you arrested me for Class C felony, the judgment of the law is prison. Oh, now as much as you want to say, well, he could plea himself down. The whole thought of being arrested for something that is imprisonable, yes. Now, every state of the United States is liable for the arrest because you executed, right, the law according to the defined judgment of the law. You made a judgment call that defined theft to Class C felony as defined in the law. Now, al executio est finis fructus legis. Execution is the end and the fruit of the laws. Ouch. Now, this execution is the end and the fruit. All of these laws that we have in each and every state, yeah, they're the fruit of the laws. If you look back, 100 years ago, they probably didn't have a Class C felony theft. They probably had theft class A, yes, or misdemeanor. But we added different classes of the actual laws of the United States. That's the fruit of it. The execution is the end. When you arrested me, ooh, the fruit of the laws. Now, the execution, well, I can look at the actual theft laws of every state from the time of incorporation of those states. Yes. And for every time you made some small change to it, it became the fruit of the laws. El executio juris non facit injurium. The execution of the process of the law does no injury. Now, you would say it was mistaken identity. It did no injury to myself, but it did. When you executed the actual probable cause arrest of the criminal complaint of theft too, yeah, that's the process of the law. Should not have done me any injury. Yes, but it did. You took $5.60. You continued to enforce the fraudulent protection order and the dissolution of marriage. Yes. You continued to reinforce the idea that I'm mentally incompetent. Yes. And then it did me an immense amount of injury because of all of those that had to witness the well, the execution of the process of the law does no injury. You did an immense amount of injury, humiliation, embarrassment, the refusal to acknowledge the fraud of the protection order, the dissolution of marriage, the reinforcing of the incompetence of the individual. Now, it did a lot, yeah. Alexpit Republicu, yeah. Utsit finis lithium, lithium, yeah. It is for the public good that there is an end of litigation. This public, yeah, known as the citizens of the United States, that you don't really care about. Poop. You have issued a 10-year protection order, yeah, where you used forgery to accomplish it, yeah, without any acknowledgement or consent of the petitioner, yes, without any due process to myself, yes, and it's a 10-year litigation. 10 years of litigation. See, when you issue for 1 year, well, there may or may not be a good reason, but 1 year is in some ways acceptable, right? Whatever the issue was, to a certain extent, it might have been a Class C felony if there was actual physical violence, but let's say it was an argument, right? And I squeezed her hand too hard while I was on Guam. There was no physical injury to the individual. Yes, yes, yes. I called her a CUNT. Did 7 hours of parenting classes. It is not for the public good for you to issue protection orders for longer than 1 year unless you can prove actual physical assault to the victim. That's right. But then you reissued it when you had me arrested by minute order. That's not for the public good. No. And then you modified it, Pastor. Yeah. And then you reissued it by mail, publication, and the sheriff's department personally called me. Yes. And then you issued it for 2 years. And then when I got back here from Centralia, I went to the police department and I asked the assistant or deputy chief of police at that time, is there something I should know about that I don't have any knowledge of? See, I got here and I thought it would expire in 1 year, but you issued it for 2 years. Well, I thought, well, I might as well wait for it to expire. Right. Eventually, I'm going to find out about this dissolution of marriage. Eventually, I'm going to get the actual documentation. But then you reissued it on June 1st of 2015. Yeah. And there was no attempt of service. And then you reissued it again. And then 48 days later, you decided to issue it for 10 years. Now, it's a 10. Now, I know your whole thought was, well, I could wait to talk to my sons when they're 18 years old. But then I went to Port Townsend and found out they're in the wrong grades, and they've been in the wrong grades for the last 7.5 years. And you were concerned about the litigation that I was wanting to start.